Good morning, YouTube, and Merry Christmas from Florida. Not much snow here. Just a nice breeze. Got a few goodies from my sister to brighten the day a little. And we'll get around to opening them in a little while. For now, there's stuff to do in here, like getting a ham in the oven. Basic preparation is pretty simple. Just wash it, throw it in a pan, and then stick a handful of cloves into the skin side of it. However many you feel inclined to stick in the thing. And then you stand it up and you cover it with aluminum foil. Just loosely. It will bake at 325 degrees for 20 minutes per pound. In this case, this is 6.5 pounds. Get down there. So that will be 2 hours and 10 minutes. Bye. And now for the glaze. You take a half a cup of honey. And a half a cup of molasses. A splash of lemon juice. And a glob or two of Worcestershire sauce. Heat it up, bring it to a low simmer, and let them all combine and get to know one another. Okie dokie, at the end of the first hour. Remove the foil. Don't you get any ideas. And we spoon the glaze all over it. And I go ahead and use all of it because for the rest of the cooking I will be basting with it about every 15 minutes. And back in the oven uncovered for the rest of its cooking time. Yoo-hoo. Fuzzy butt. Let's see what this stirs up. You think there's something in there? Hmm? Must be pretty good. Unwrapping presents is hard when you don't have thumbs, isn't it? Let me help. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Here. Merry Christmas. Well, I think he likes it. And it has a tail just like his. This is a recipe that I got from Liz over at the BBQ My Way channel. And when I first saw it, it screamed at me, "Make me! Make me!" So here I am. I'm doing 1/4 of her recipe, using a half a stick of butter and 1 cup of shredded extra sharp cheddar, 2/3 of a cup of flour, and she said to use just a smidge of cayenne. Looks like a smidge. And you allegedly mix all of this together until it forms a dough. Rough it in a little with a fork to get it started. And then the only real way to do it is to get your hands into it. And this could take a few minutes, so chat amongst yourselves. And sure enough, after about 5 minutes, I have an actual dry sort of a dough. Now you pick off pieces of this. Actually, it's unspecified. It's however much you need. And you take your drained and dried large size olives and you wrap them up in it. And you form them into little balls. Thusly. Now I have gotten out an even dozen olives. I don't know how many this quarter recipe will make, but it's probably more than I have any business eating. Do I care? No. If I run out of dough before I run out of olives, I'll just eat whatever are left over. So I got 8 out of this recipe, meaning first of all there are 4 left for the chef. Yum. And based on this, a full recipe ought to make about 32 to 36, call it 3 dozen. Now you can make these ahead of time, and she says you can even freeze them and then take them out of the freezer and thaw them and bake them as you need them. So now they will go into a 400-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes until they're just lightly golden brown. This has become my all-time favorite sweet potato recipe. I've done it several times. And you start out by just pricking them lightly. We're going to give them a first bake in the microwave for about 8 minutes or so until they're soft. And you prick them with a knife so they won't explode. Something you definitely don't want happening if you're the one that has to clean your microwave. Ouch. Ow. Ouch, 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 ouch. Hot. I think they're cooked. So the next operation is to split them in half. While avoiding second-degree burns. I know, I should let them cool down first. Now, with them open, I'll let them cool down for a little while. Now I spoon out the insides. Carefully leaving the shells intact. And trying not to sling it all over the place. Leave about 1/8 of an inch or so of potato in the shell. And now with them all cleaned out, throw in a couple of tablespoons of butter while the stuff is still warm so it'll melt it. Get that going. Now you add 2 to 4 teaspoons of brown sugar, depending on your penchant for brown sugar. Mine is sufficiently high. That's about 4 heaping teaspoons. And add 4 tablespoons of sour cream. Good enough. And now a smidgen of salt. A 1/4 teaspoon or thereabouts. And mush all this stuff together. Until everything is all nice and uniformly incorporated and blended. And now you put it all back in the shells. And up to this point, you can make these a day ahead. Then refrigerate them overnight and finish them the next day. For the glaze for the potatoes, I need about 1/2 cup of slivered almonds. And since I only have whole almonds, I'll sliver them myself. Thusly. And then they go into a small skillet. Get in there. With a couple of tablespoons of honey, which I think is about all that's left in here. And I heat them up over medium-low heat. That's not medium-low, that's medium-low. Until they're pretty well blended and the almonds have toasted a bit. Now after 3 or 4 minutes, they're bubbling nicely and you can smell the almonds starting to get a little toasty. So you spread them out on some parchment paper, thinly, and you let them cool. And don't get any on you. Stuff was hot. And I almost forgot. You sprinkle them moderately generously with salt. Alrighty. The ham is done. And it looks a little bit like this. Now the oven goes up to 425. And meanwhile, I cover the ham and just let it cool down and rest while we attend to other things. Get down there. Things like making the cornbread, a cup of cornmeal, a cup of whole wheat flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Stir this together. Well, the oven's ready. Now into that, a cup of milk, a thoroughly beaten egg, let go. And for this occasion, I'm splurging. And instead of honey, it's a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. I've never done this before. Get in there. And then lick the measuring cup and the side of the container. And flog vigorously with your spurtle. Now, of course, while you were preheating the oven, you preheated the cast iron skillet. Not. So now you wait for it to warm up. Now that the pan is warmed up, we scrape all of the batter into it. The olives are already in. I can hardly wait to try them. Now the potatoes will go into the little oven at 375. Now I'm doing a Brussels sprouts recipe that I stole from one of my idols, in which Jacque fricassees them with bacon. What else? And how he does this recipe is that he slices them crossways into about 1/8 inch slices. And I'm using about a half a pound of them. Of course, he does this fancy slicing in his fancy French food processor. I'm doing it the hard way. Of course, any bad leaves that you get as you're destemming them, you throw them out. But any good leaves that just accidentally fall off, they're fair game. Slice them up and throw them in. And that's that. And now to fry up some bacon. A couple of slices for the Brussels sprouts. And a slice for the chef. Of course. Now we'll let this brown. Now I've removed my bacon. And Jacque just throws the Brussels sprouts right on in. Adding a little salt and pepper. And you cover them and reduce the heat a little and just let them sweat for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I can take a couple of slices off of the ham. The sprouts are done, and I've tossed them with just a little olive oil and a splash of lemon juice. And here we go. A honey glazed ham, twice baked sweet potato, fricasseed Brussels sprouts with bacon, cornbread, and these baked olives. These things are addictive. Some white Zinfandel and a little Harvey's Bristol cream to toast the occasion. Merry Christmas to all. Now let's pig out.